Right now.
Okay.
We're live on Facebook now.
You want to mute that so I don't hear myself talk?
Oh yeah, that would be helpful.
So this is Hoya Locker Room. This is a celebration of life. This is voices that were impacted directly by the man himself, and we're here to share our stories, share the impact that this man had on our life, good, bad, and indifferent. And if you don't know some of these names, I suggest maybe a Google or two. And the Google might not lead you to their basketball career; it might lead you someplace else. This is the tree here, and I want to thank everybody for being here. And for those that are listening, we appreciate you tuning in. This will be recorded and posted up someplace. So if some of us have people that we don't want to see it, you might want to let me know. Maybe I'll just hold it, keep it down. But in all seriousness, I want to thank everybody for being here. Our condolences go out to the Thompson family, to the Georgetown family. That almost goes without being said. Don't know how many people will be coming in and out, but that really doesn't matter. It's those that are here and their stories that I want you to be empowered by. So with that, I think I'm going to go to Markham, who will kind of act as my co-host, and from there we'll just pass the baton. Seniority kind of rules here, and if you have a time issue, please let us know. We'll work with you there. But the size of the group, I don't think we'll have a time issue right now. So Markham, you want to jump in there?
Sure.
Thank you.
Why don't I start with how I ended up as a manager at Georgetown. I'm from Memphis, Tennessee, and there was an article in a newspaper one day, and it was a guy working at Nike, and after I decided I was going to Georgetown, I wanted to be involved with the basketball program, and I called this guy up cold and asked to come meet with him, and that guy was Gene Smith. I don't know why he took my call, but he did. He suggested a couple of things. I also had a English teacher who taught Mark Thompson, who was a manager at the time, and Mark was her nephew. So I hit campus and started to ask everybody, who is Mark Thompson? I need to meet this guy. Finally meet up with Mark, and he tells me I need to get a job in the cage. I do that. In the cage, for the viewers who don't know, that's where the team uniforms are washed for all of the sports teams for Georgetown. And I get that job, and shortly thereafter, I get invited on kind of a trial run. And I thought I was the coolest guy in the room, because I'm involved with Georgetown basketball now. And the first day of practice, coach was going through some plays, and James Pena there threw a bounce pass that was horrible. And he got called all kinds of names, all kinds of motherfuckers. And he looks at me and says, "Son, didn't you say you played basketball in high school? Get up here." And I am shaking, nervous as hell, because this guy just threw a horrible pass. I played, but I'm nervous, like the lights are on. And I threw a perfect bounce pass to Coach Thompson. And I hit him right in the ankles. And I was called every motherfucker up under the sun. Didn't know what was going to happen. Got past that. But remember, I said I was working at the cage. In 1984, we won the championship. And we had a little area called a stage, where guys would go to work on their games. And because I was working in the cage, I took one of my coworkers on the cage and decided to play some one-on-one, show him I was big stuff. And before we did that, down the hallway, I went and got 6 commemorative Cokes from the championship season. And I put them outside the locker room. Outside the stage door. And we played for about 45 minutes, an hour. It was a late Saturday night. Nobody was around. And when I came out, I almost died, because under those 6 Cokes was a note written on yellow legal pad paper that said, "I hope these Cokes were worth your scholarship." And I was just, I was gone. Long story short, the head manager, Kenny Brown, I talked to him. He was like, "Man, when Big John makes a decision, it's over. You know, sorry, there's nothing I can do." My mom called up to the gym. She didn't know a scholarship was involved. She just knew I wanted to be involved with the team. I had not told them that. He would not talk to my mother. That was the policy. You know, I'm dealing with your son. I don't deal with you. And Charles Smith, who former Big East Player of the Year, spoke up for me, and he told Coach I was a good kid and I should get a second chance, and I got a second chance, and I made the most of it. So lots of more stories I could tell you, but that's the most important one, because it allowed me to wash jocks and make Gatorade and pay for my school, and allowed me to come out with very minimal school debt. I only had to pay for school the first semester. So let's go to the next guy.
Mark, I want to thank you for that story. And Jaime, please jump in there, because I know
Coach is 6'11". I'm 5'4". So my bounce pass was actually perfect if he was 7 feet away. I threw it only 6 feet away and ended up on his toes. So he did tell me to get the F off the court at that time. So that was a great that was a great day of practice for sure. So.
I do want to encourage, if someone speaks on the story that you want to add to, you can jump the line to get in the point, because I appreciate that, James, because when Markham was telling the story of how we met, he left out a whole lot of things. One of those things was
my form on that bounce pass was impeccable.
Yeah,
he told didn't get the recipient.
How, he contacted me, and the reality is I told him from the jump, because he was talking about playing and walking on. And I said, "Man, you got to be out your motherfucking mind. You
add that part to the story for sure. Markham next time.
Out for you." And but I guess the more important thing is, here we are now, and whatever I told him worked, right? Whatever I told him made a difference, and it got him to the next move or the next stage.
That's definitely true. I was thinking about walking on. That was my dream for sure. And I hadn't even played the last 2 years of high school, but I'm from Memphis. That's a basketball town. And the only problem was I, at 5'11", 5'11 and a half, played exclusively in the post back in those days. And you weren't going to play in the post at Georgetown, probably any D1 school, at 5'11 and a half, 6 feet.
Gary McDonald, 6'4", could play in the post for us.
So thank you, sir, for sharing. Who's next up? Who's the oldest guy in the room?
Might be me, Gene.
Fitzgerald. Good to see you, sir. And I love the Yorkie in the background. Love it.
He's on mute.
Unmute yourself, Emmett.
Emmett,
you got to unmute yourself. You're on mute. There you go.
All right. Thank you. There's a lot of stories I could tell, but one that sticks out in my mind, and I tell other people about it till this day. It's actually two, but I'll just go with one because we got to get other people in. In 1973 or 74, we went down to play Navy at Navy. Felix, you might or might not have been on the team at that time because you and I only shared 1 year. But you'll know this, if you were on the team, you'll remember this story because nobody would ever forget it. We went down on a bus to play Navy at Annapolis, and we played awful, absolutely awful. And we still won the game. I get, Merlin Wilson and some guys just pulled out a squeaker, but we played really bad, and they were small. I think at that time you could only be 6'5" at the Naval Academy. And we had Billy Lynn was 6'9", Merlin Wilson was 6'9", Gregory Brooks was 6'6", 6'7". We were huge for a early 70s team. and should have beaten these guys by 25 points. So we were feeling pretty good coming home on the bus because we squeaked out a win. Sometimes you win ugly, you know. We've all done that, and you feel good afterward. You don't feel so great afterwards, but at least it happens. So we come back to McDonough Arena about 10 o'clock at night, and everybody's talking about, you know, Rack going home to the dorm and falling asleep and maybe getting a snack or whatever. And Coach Thompson announces that we're going in for practice. 10 o'clock at night, McDonough Gymnasium. And he ran us hard till about 12:30 in the morning. Almost, as everybody knows who played or managed, Coach Thompson's practices were always 3 hours. Didn't matter if you won, if you lost, if you were playing great or playing bad, it didn't matter. It was 3 hours. And he gave us a break, I think it was about 2.5. I tell you, I was never so tired in my life. I didn't play much in the game. I was a substitute, as all you guys may or may not know. But to get back from your room, you know, the next day from a game, and then having to practice at night for 2.5 hours after losing the game was unbelievable. That's my one story that stands out about Coach, because he could be tough, as we all know. And that was one of the hardest things I had to do when I was playing for Coach Thompson. Play a game and then practice afterwards for not playing well. I'm sure he did it again to some of you other guys, but I'm not sure if you're on this call right now.
Well, no, if anyone's on the call, Mr. Fitzgerald, we all experience what you're talking about.
Yeah. So other guys have been through that? Okay.
Oh, absolutely.
We
You
did.
should, what about the 5 in the morning practices?
Yeah. Well, after a game, this was after a game. One other real quick one, I'll let you know. My freshman year, we went up to St. This is a funny one, and I know it's a sad time for a lot of people. I'll make it quick. We went up to St. Bonaventure my freshman year, and I was probably 10th or 11th man on the team, and I wasn't really expecting to play. And before the game, they were one bottom, a game jersey bottom less or down. So I volunteered to wear it. So we had the whole team dressed up as if they were playing a game, but I had a game jersey on and practice shorts, thinking I wasn't going to play. Lo and behold, Jonathan Smith, 2 quick fouls. Trying to think who else it wasn't Cheese Holloway. I'm trying to think who else would have been. Jonathan, maybe Michael McDermott. I'm not sure. But all of a sudden, the guards are looking really lean. And Coach Thompson says, "You're in there, buddy." And I didn't have the nerve to tell him I didn't have game pants on. And if you've ever played at St. Bonaventure, it's a really small gym, and they are up your butt. As a matter of fact, we almost had a rumble in the stands that night because they were kneeing us in the back. The fans that were in the second row behind our bench kept kneeing the guys that were on the bench in the back. So we almost came to blows. But I run out there on the court with practice shorts on in a Division I game. So, and of course, the fans went crazy. And I wasn't out there a long time. It was really just to give, you know, our starters and better players a chance to recover from foul trouble. But everybody in that small gym knew that I was running around our practice jerseys. And Felix will tell you, because he's the only guy I know from the 70s, they weren't that nice. They were pretty cheap old blue bottoms. And everybody else is out there in these beautiful shorts, and I'm running around probably not playing too well, trying to hold my own in practice shorts, and the whole place was going crazy.
Emmett, I only have one question.
Yeah.
He let you keep your scholarship?
I wasn't on scholarship.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. That explains it.
What did he say to you later?
The question I would ask is what happened to the manager?
Yeah,
What happened to the manager, Emmett? Because that's the manager's fault.
he's fired.
Well, I don't know, he stayed on, but they were definitely one short. And we were on the road, and, you know, I kind of volunteered to do it thinking I wasn't going to play, but it turned out to backfire on me, and everybody in our team knew it. So they were kind of chuckling and hoping that Coach Thompson couldn't see them laughing at me out there running around in my practice drawer.
Well,
So,
we're all laughing now.
Well, Emmett,
yeah,
Emmett,
that's funny.
Emmett,
I
go ahead.
told all my friends at Georgetown when I got back about the story, and we had a good laugh, but I figured I'd add a little levity.
There's gonna be a lot of levity. Don't worry about that.
All right.
Be a lot of
I'm
levity.
done for now, guys.
Emmett,
Thank you.
Emmett, Felix mentioned everybody knows about the 5, 6 a.m. practices, but your story triggered, I don't know what year it was. I was from the Midwest. Coach Thompson told us beforehand he's giving us Christmas Day off. So my family got on a plane and flew out to DC to spend the one day with me. They hadn't seen me in a while. And something happened a couple days before that. He called practice on Christmas Day. And so my family's thinking I got the day off. They're waiting for me. I think we started practice at like 10 a.m. And I shit you not, it was like 2, 3 in the afternoon. We were still in practice, and they've told that story over and over for years. That he had us practice like 4 or 5 hours on Christmas Day.
I remember Coach Christmas Day practice. He would say he'd been on a bench and he'd lean and goes, "I got nothing else to do today. F Christmas. I got nothing else to do today." So I remember we were in for a long haul on Christmas Day practice for sure.
Well, Kurt, I could top that one. On New Year's Eve, he called practice. And when we came out, he sat us down and he talked to us about what it would take to be a winning program, what it would take to be a good ball player, how to go about dedicating yourself to the sport. And after he finished this long speech, he says, "Okay, I'm gonna leave the gym open. I'm gonna go. You know, it's New Year's Eve. You know, so you guys do what you want to do." And he left and went upstairs. About a third of the team, probably about 3 or 4 guys, headed straight for the locker room. You know, the rest of us stayed out there, kind of worked out. You know, worked on our game. I don't know if you were there, Mike. So he came back down and said, "Go get those guys out of the locker room." So he went and got the guys out of the locker room. And he said, "I just sat here telling you what it would take to be a winning program. And as soon as I turn your back, you head for the locker room." Kurt, we practiced until 12:15, a quarter after 12. At the end of practice, he said, "Happy New Year, you MFs."
Perfect.
Yeah.
I'd take Christmas Day any day. You know.
Mark Tillman has a great Christmas Day story. If he wants to jump in, I don't know if
I'll see
he's
the video.
listening.
Mark Tillman.
We'll come back to it.
Well, I guess I'll keep rolling ahead since, you know, I'm the old head on the call. And for the sake of this call, I am absolutely sure that I've known Coach longer than anyone here. I first met Coach when I walked into St. Anthony's gym as a wide-eyed 14-year-old freshman. And Coach let me run with the varsity. And it was pretty intense. You know, I was such a young guy, but it put me up against, you know, that serious competition and helped me develop my game. You know, and as a consequence of that, I mean, the next year, Coach left the next year. So I did get to experience his coaching for that year, you know, his guidance, you know, his teaching, because, you know, Coach always thought of himself as an educator, not just a coach. 2 years later, I actually graduated after my junior year to come to Georgetown. It also makes me think about the fact that, you know, I know because of the level of success the program had in the 80s, people think the program started in the 80s. No, it did not. It started in 1972. Coach's first recruiting class were 4 guys out of St. Anthony's: Merlin Wilson, Jonathan Smith, Gregory Brooks, Aaron Long. Jonathan Smith and Merlin were first team All-Met. Greg was third team All-Met. That team was 25, 26 and 1. They only lost 1 game. They won the Knights of Columbus tournament. And if my memory serves me correctly, Sam Williams was on that Mount Vernon squad they beat for the championship. Sam Williams is Gus Williams' brother. For any of you young heads that don't, our students of the game, go Google his name.
If they don't know Felix, that's their problem. That's their loss.
Right. Go Google those names. But I'm saying this to tell you that those 3 guys followed Coach to Georgetown. Merlin was also a second team parade All-American. Those 3 guys could have gone to school anywhere in the country. At that time, NC State was hot on Merlin's trail. They wanted Merlin to come to NC State. That was in 1972. In 1974, NC State won the national championship. They had this guy that you might have heard of named David Thompson. That's who they wanted Merlin to play with. Greg Brooks. Boston College was after Greg Brooks. And this is when Boston College had ballers. Because if you recall, what was that? Was it in 85? Boston College was 2 wins away from it being an all Big East final. 3 out of 4 teams. If you look at the other bracket, Boston College won in the lost in the Sweet 16. Don't take my word for it. Go take a look. That's where they had ballers. They wanted Greg. And Jonathan could have gone anywhere in the country. Jonathan was such an athlete that the Dallas Cowboys back then had a reputation of drafting like basketball players to be wide receivers. You might have heard this guy named Drew Pearson. You know, he was a baller before he got on to Dallas Cowboys squad. He was that type of an athlete. I'm telling you all of this. You have to ask the question, okay, why would a guy who could join us a stable program with national prominence and a big reputation, all 3 of those guys, why would they come to a school that was 3-23 with an upstart coach? Why would I leave whatever high school legacy I had left on the table and leave St. Anthony's for my junior year to come and play at Georgetown? All boils down to our admiration for Coach. That was the bottom line. Not only the way he coached us, but just the way he spent time with us, the way he talked to us. Some of my most valuable memories are riding around in what I believe had to be 73, 74, riding around with him in his 65 station wagon, 1965 station wagon, just talking. He might come and pick me up and take me to a Bullets game. If you don't know the Bullets, I'll Google that too.
Breaking all kind of NCAA rules.
Yeah. So those moments are the moments that were most valuable to me, you know. And the fact that all of those guys at the beginning of the program, Al Dutch came in 75. Al Dutch was a first team parade All-American. He was the first parade All-American that John signed outside of the St. Anthony's group. Now the Al Dutch, some of you guys got to play with, was the Al Dutch whose priorities shifted. While he was in school, he got married, he had a family, He took a year off of a leave of absence, then he came back. Al Dutch I played against would drop 50 on you in high school. He chose to come to Georgetown, not because it was a great school, which it is, not because it was in DC and nearby, which it is. He came to Georgetown because of his admiration for Coach. Now, that first year, those guys went 12 and 14. And incidentally, that first year, Coach's first year, he started 5 freshmen, which is now pretty much no big deal. But back then, it was an anomaly because, okay, I'm really dating myself now. That first year was the first year the NCAA allowed freshmen to play varsity. If you go back and read about some of these great players like Abdul-Jabbar, in his book, he talks about the fact that when he was a freshman, their freshman team could beat the varsity. And that was why. So that 1972 year was the first year freshmen can play, and he started 5 freshmen. They won still what they won 12. They went 12-14. They went 13-13, 18-10. Those first 2 years, we got into the NCAA tournament by winning ECAC South. 18-10 in my senior year, I forgot what the record was. And then you guys started showing up. We upped the level of talent. Pat came in, and the rest is history. So when you walk into that, do this for me, when you walk into that John Thompson Center, and you see that little plaque on the right with the names Wilson, Brooks, Smith, Long. There was also Billy Lynn out of Spingarn. Know that those guys came to Georgetown that was previously 3-23 because their love, respect, and admiration for Coach. No other reason. And I can say that for myself. All right, I'll give up the platform.
I just want to say real quick, thank you, Felix. First of all, for being, one of the oldest cats in the room and being able to take us back and share some things that none of us, I've never heard some of that, what you shared. And I think it's important, but it's also important, I think, for those that are on the call. This is what we're about. Like knowing where we came from and knowing where we're going and knowing that now it's on us to do things differently, right? It's on us to move this ball, the pendulum even further. But I've had, Felix has been important to me, not so much in terms of what he said to me, but just on how he moves and how he acts and how he carries himself. And I just want to thank him for being a part of the call. Thank you for sharing. And I hope you stick around to interject and share more. Thank you very much. So I don't know who's next up, but the mic's yours.
Probably
That's me, Gene. The good-looking one of the group.
The 7-footer.
The first 7-footer.
That's a matter of opinion, Mike. That's a matter of opinion.
All right, Bo. I got to go back to my high school. Like that's when I was my senior, my coach used to put on these little things on the weekend, little scrimmages. And so I would always come and I went to a private prep school outside of Cleveland. And besides, at that time, Derek Jackson was, I think, the only one from outside the tri-state area. So he came, I think we were playing a scrimmage on Saturday morning. My coach was asking me, he always picked me up. He was asking me, Mike, have you thought about colleges and where you want to go? And I said, yeah, but I don't know what I want to do. I was thinking about staying an extra year to strengthen my academics more. And he said, well, we got some guys coming in today. I want you to play real good against them. I said, okay. And we get up there, and he brought some inner city kids to this all-white school that we went to. He was a teacher, and he was also my coach. And he was a black man. And Ralph Chevier was about 6'4", 6'5", and a baller himself from Cleveland. And we I get in there, and there some names back there was Campy Russell and Jim Jones from the Cleveland Cavaliers. And of course, I had to play against Jim Jones, who was 6'11" at the time. And I was 6'11". And I remember Jim Jones tried to come up and dunk on me with a full steam. He hit me and fell back and hit the ground. And his teammates from the Cavaliers started laughing at him. You let this high schooler come in here and treat you like that. And they wouldn't give up. So next weekend, coach is doing the same thing. I said, well, coach, is Jim Jones going to be there again? Because he said, yeah. He said, yeah, he'll probably be there. He didn't show up. And somebody else did, because when we pulled in, I was in the dressing room, my teammates were saying, Mike, there's this big guy out there asking a lot of questions about you. I said, well, who is he? I don't know. He said, he's big, he's black, and he looks like he's mean. I said, oh, shit. They said, what did you do? I said, man, I ain't done nothing. No, I'm thinking the police is coming to get me for something. I go in there and play, and I'm watching him. This guy's sitting there, and he was sitting next to a little white guy, older guy. And I was like, oh, shoot. I said, I got to play. So I played my game. Afterwards, a coach brought me over, introduced me to John Thompson and Bill Stein, coaches at Georgetown. And I was like, oh, how you doing, coach? And I said, he said, why are you doing that? I said, I thought I was in trouble. All my teammates were telling me this big black guy is after you. And I said, oh, God. So he asked me about Georgetown. Have I thought about Georgetown? Do I even know what Georgetown was? I said, yes. I know you were in the NCAAs. He said, yeah. He said, we're in the NCAAs, and we didn't make it, but we're developing a team, a concept. And would you be interested in taking a trip? And at that time, my interest in trips was first Hawaii. You know, I want to go to the University of Hawaii first. But then I was looking at Kentucky as my second choice, but they had two big boys called King and Kong. They were both 6'11" white boys. And I was like, okay, I'm probably not gonna play there because they're sophomores or juniors, so it'll be a couple years before I even get on the court. So anyway, Coach Thompson invited me to come to the school to take a look, my visit. I said, yes, sir, I would. So when he set it up, he let me know that it was midterms and the guys were studying and, you know, I don't want you to disturb them. I want them to do their studying and they know I'm walking around campus checking on them. So he said, but if you go up to them and talk to them, they'll tell you the truth. And I remember when he picked me up, first thing he told me is some of the names. He said, yeah, they called me Pipehead. And I was like, Pipehead? And I was too young. I was too afraid to ask him why. I let it go. He said, yeah, they call me all kinds of names. But he said, boys love me. They love me. I said, okay. So I get there on campus and everybody was studying. He let me stay with DJ, Derek Jackson. And so I got a chance to talk to Derek and he was straight honest. And then I saw Larry Long. He was really honest, talking about what you would do. But I remember Coach said, if you come to Georgetown and you do what I say, you'll leave not only as a man, but you'll get your degree. And I remember when he said that in front of my parents, because he brought Mary Finland, Coach Stein, and Coach Datcher, Dwight Datcher at the time. And they sat in my living room and they said that, I think my father jumped up and said, where do I sign? He's like, yeah, you take him, you teach him to be a man more than I could hear. It's like, okay. So I remember Coach picking me up, bringing me to the summer league. I thought I was going back to the dorms and getting situated. He brought me to the summer league and we're good there and he's telling me about these guys from DC that were there. What's his name? Albert and Bernard King were there. And I was sitting there, he said, these are local boys. These are Maryland boys. Georgetown, he said, when you come here, you'll be playing in the summer leagues as well. This is part of the repertoire. He said, by you living in Cleveland, you're not going to get a chance to go home that often, like the other guys. So take advantage of the time you do have off campus, but don't do nothing stupid, because I'll find out one way or another. Then I don't know, Bo, if anybody before me was called motherfucker as much But I remember that all through my 4 years.
I only played 1 year with Mike. I think he's telling the truth on this one.
I'll tell you what convinced me that I think I'm the original is that when I got to the banquet my senior year, he's going on and he's saying something, and he's up there speaking about me. Because I think at the time I was the only senior and Jeff Rochester, who was the manager. And he said something about motherfucker, and Mary Finley was sitting next to him. She says, John, and he said, he looked down and he said, isn't that his name? He said, what? Mike Frey? Oh, Mike, I thought your name was Mike for all these 4 years.
The initials are right.
But, you know, it was also a time after my freshman year, I had foot problems. And he gave me the option to go home and get it straightened up, take a year off, or stay on campus and go to school and rehab the ankle. And I said, no, I'll go home. I went back to Cleveland, got a great job working for General Electric. But he gave me stipulations. I had to take classes and I had to play in a basketball league, which I did. But staying home also with mom's cooking, I put on weight. So when it came time to come back to school, I'm not paying attention. I'm not getting any information, no phone calls, no emails or nothing from anybody about it. Coach calls me up and said, are you coming back to school? I'm like, yeah. He said, well, you haven't called in to register or anything. And I was like, oh, is it that time already? Man, I'm making $18 an hour at a job. And I was like, totally forgot about it. So when Coach Steiny come up and watched me play a couple of the games, went back and told Coach that I had put on some weight. And I got back to campus. He was pissed. He was pissed. Actually, right before I got to campus, he was pissed. And he told me, and not too many people know about this, that if I wanted to come back to school, I had to pay for that first semester myself. And I said, okay, agreed. We shook hands on it. And I paid for my first semester. Then afterwards, I'm back on regular scholarship. And at the end, again, at our banquet, he brought that up. And he said, that's one thing I got to give him. I got to give him respect for that. He took all the hard bullshit, all the cursing, all the sprints I made him run, all the rim tapping that we used to do, me and skates. He said he wouldn't give up. He said, I tried to make him quit. And I wouldn't quit. And I think that was part of his bearing on me. He made me into a stronger person than I was before I came in there. Because not too many people would put up with a lot of stuff that he does. But at that time, I saw it as a way to better myself, and I think I did because of that. He made me a stronger man, better man. And, I'd never forget him, what he's done for me over the years.
I think you might need to get that money back for that semester, though. Powerful story. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, I just remember Big Mike. I only played 1 year with him. It was my freshman year. I just remember him as being the only player I've ever seen serenaded on campus by the student body. But Big John definitely, that 1 year, dug into Mike like we all know he can get his horns into somebody. So I guess it's apropos for Mike to share that story and in earnest. Yeah, you take a semester, you pay the semester. But I appreciate that. I see Kurt. I think, Kurt, you ready to go up?
I think Johnny I's a little older.
Johnny I's a little older. Where Johnny I at?
I am a little older. It's been interesting. Big John's death has caused me to do some reflection, and a number of things strike me. But one of them, just listening to everybody on the call, one of the things that I think he was able to do was attract very kind and good athletes. It's very interesting. All of you are talking, and I'm sure stories. I know Mike, I know Kurt, I played with Felix a little bit. I know Jeannie. But one of the things that struck me in reflecting about Georgetown, and I think it's a cultural thing that Big John did, is the people, the teammates, my teammates were among the finest people I've ever known. I'm close to all of them. I graduated in 1980, played the first year of the Big East, and I came to Georgetown in a more circuitous route than most of you. I walked on. I was working in the Marriott cafeteria. I went to Georgetown. I was a very good player in high school, but I was the first person in my family to go to college. So I really didn't know. I wasn't too sophisticated. I had some D2 offers, et cetera, et cetera. But I went to Georgetown. I had never heard of them. I figured I was a good enough player. I'd walk on. And when I got there, I saw Felix, Johnny Smith. I mean, the talent there was like, are you fucking kidding me? Who are these people? I had never heard of Big John. I didn't know who he was. Georgetown was still in the ECAC at that time. And there was I guess they called it the reserve team, Mike, because you played on it with me a couple of games. But Georgetown in those days had a reserve team where some of the freshmen would play, and they needed other players to kind of round it out. And I started playing there. And again, I had never heard of Big John. And my sophomore year, a lot of people got hurt. So Big John he just needed bodies to round out his squad so they could practice. And I was invited, and, you know, did okay. I guess I did okay, because at the end, after people got better, I went back to working at the Marriott cafeteria. I was happy, I had a good run. I said, these guys are good, but they're not that good. I could probably play with them, but I thought my day was done. You know, that's okay, I had a little run. And I'll never forget it, Big John, and Coach Stein, one day I was working in the cafeteria cooking eggs, and Big John and Bill Stein asked the management if they could speak to me. And he said, son, I have a scholarship. I'd like to give it to you. I was going to transfer because I really missed playing. And so he gave me a scholarship in my junior and senior year. And like others, you know, I don't come from a lot of money, and it meant a great deal. You know, it meant a great deal just in reality to be able to graduate from college kind of debt free. But, you know, the years there, we had a very good team. We lost my senior year. We lost the game to go to the Final Four. But getting back to some of the things about Big John that strikes me and still does, is our team was so close and so tight. And most of you played on the blue team. I was a leader of the white team, and we hated the blue team. Like, we hated them. And we played with a defensive intensity that I think was insane. And we had, you know, 3 first-round draft picks on our team. The great Craig Shelton, dear friend, I wish he was on the call. John Bebe Duran, Sleepy Floyd, you know, really, really good players. But our practices were savage and brutal, and Big John loved that and fostered that. But, you know, just for me, what strikes me about him is, notwithstanding all the contentiousness that things were said, our team, and I think most of you could speak for yourselves, but I know Jeannie, I know a number of you, I know Felix, our teams were incredibly close, and people came from different places. Some were All-Americans, some were walk-ons. When I was walked on my sophomore year before I got a scholarship, I remember Felix, Johnny Smith, really, really strong, good players, could not have been more kind. And I attribute that in a way to who what Big John valued, who were the people that he wanted to participate in his program. And they were universally great people. You know, and I also found Big John was a stereotype breaker. You know, he had all of these things, but one of the things that always made me laugh is I think Big John had his own stereotypes. And for most of his white players up until that point were kind of spot up shooters, et cetera. And I was an insane, out of control, and he didn't know how to deal with me. He would say, son, you are fucking out of fucking control, slow down. Like, I think in his head, he had one vision and I was the complete opposite. And notwithstanding that insanity, he was, you know, he was just he was very good to me, very good to my family. And there are 1,000 stories that I could tell, and I'm not going to go on, except to say that, you know, the friends I made at Georgetown, my best friends were my teammates. My teammates were there because of Big John. My father was, I'll never forget, my father was thrilled that I played basketball because he wasn't an athlete, et cetera. And I'll never forget. And I got in, I was like one of the last guys in. I got in on garbage time. I got very little time. Once in a while I got in if there was a defensive situation, but I almost never got in. But he treated I'll never forget how kind he was to my father. Like, he treated my father as if I was, you know, the first player on the team. Like, that little memory of him, I think exemplifies one of his strong characteristics, that internally he treated everybody in a really kind way, but, you know, I had another quick story about, you know, Big John ran the team, as you all know, and he was a hard man, and his language reflected that. And I've only seen one instance where Big John, I think, stopped talking, and it was when one of my teammates, Ed Spriggs, those of you who know him, he was a tough man and a strong man. And Big John was going on a tirade about something that Ed had done, and he was MFing him. And Ed took the basketball and punted it up until the McDonough rafters, and it was bouncing around. And it was the first time I saw Big John just stop, because you could tell, and Kurt probably remembers this, and Mike might have been there. It was not the time, John. It was not the time. But, you know, it was a great, what I value about him is it's kind of a simple twist of fate in a way. You time and place, and then after graduation, helping me get a job at the athletic at Georgetown, helping me get into Georgetown Law School, all these little things that impact your life as you look back, that are really born of a single man who made a single decision that he didn't have to make, particularly as it relates to me, right? I wasn't someone that was going to make or break his team. But if you just look at the chain of events, you know, unbelievably impactful person in my life, and a positive one. Did a lot of great things for me. So those are just some of my thoughts. And that's that.
Thank you, Johnny Irwin. I didn't play with Johnny, but he has been he's a beacon of light to me. I didn't see him play, but I'm pretty sure I played like him. And you know, this is the Georgetown family. This is the Georgetown connection that I think he spoke about, or I'm talking about, and how we're connected. Why this forum is important, to hear those voices that we don't always hear. And I appreciate you so much, Johnny, for jumping on. You mean a lot. You mean a lot to the program. You mean a lot to me. And celebrating each other is celebrating Big John. I don't think we should lose sight of that. So appreciate you, Captain, for that. I don't know who has the mic next.
I do.
I'll go ahead and jump in real quick.
Go ahead.
First of all, I want to say hello to everyone. And
What's up, Mark?
ain't nothing. Hey, listen, I got to say this to this person. I'm going to say two things to two people. One, I got to give a shout out to Kai Day. Man, I ain't seen you in over 30 years, man. It was good to see you on the last call. The other thing, when I got in late on the live stream late, and I'm sorry for that. So when I click on the live stream, the first person I see was Johnny. So I really didn't know who he was, so I had to click on his name because I thought it was Anderson Cooper. No disrespect. no disrespect. I said, I was like, Gene Smith got Anderson Cooper on here today. We gonna do something.
I missed that joke.
You did get Anderson. He's coming on later.
That's Tillman.
I'm staying on mute while this guy's talking.
But besides that, before I, tell a couple of stories and, Coach Thompson, to me, it wouldn't be fair for me just not to say some things about him. And for me, he had three names for me. One was Mr. Thompson, because I grew up in his house with his kids. We grew up together. Two, it became Coach Thompson when I went to Georgetown. And then the third, after I left Georgetown, it became Pops, obviously. But, we all know that he was a large figure in many ways. He stood 6'10", and he was a champion on all levels, from high school to college, to pros, even the Olympics. And I think people forget that he was assistant coach on the 76 Olympic team too, to get a gold medal. We know he stood being activist, fighting to make sure his players felt supported and gave his players a shot at a quality education, which was more important than anything for me. That impacted my life. He gave me a voice not to be afraid to use my voice and stand up for whatever cause I believe and never be apologetic about it. And the other thing about that voice he gave me and how that came about is when Jimmy the Greek talked about, and this was a mental practice we had one day, when Jimmy the Greek talked about African Americans being breeded like horses. So he sat down and he asked every single one of us, what did that mean? I mean, what do you think about what he said? Obviously, when he got to me, because I'm sitting in the middle of the pack, I said, I don't know. And man, you talk about the colorful language, the motherfuckers. You want to read your press clips. That's all you care about. I mean, he just went down the line with cursing me out. So that kind of woke me up. And I realized that he was right. So after some time, I think a year had went by. And no, it was actually more than it was a couple years that went by. And I wrote him a letter and FedExed it to his house, telling him, thank you for that moment. Do you remember the moment? X, Y, and Z. So he calls me one day and says, son, did you send a fucking letter to my house? So I said, yeah, coach, I sent the letter. He said, don't you ever send no shit to my fucking house again. I said, but coach, I was thanking you. Pick up the fucking phone and call me, son. I ain't got time to be reading your bullshit. I said, okay. I said, is that it? He said, yeah, that's it. And you have a fucking good day, and hung up. So I said, this shit never quits. It never quits with him. But that's who he was, and that's how we saw him all the time. But one educational experience he gave me to think, use your mind, because there's so many instances, and we all have stories that we can tell till the cows come home. And he always talked about when somebody's hollering and screaming, you running and jumping to go do something without thinking. So I remember when we went to Vegas as a team, and he said, if anyone wins any money, I'll hold your money and won't give it back to you till you get home. Cool. I love Vegas. I like to gamble. So I go to the crap tables, play a little blackjack when I go to the crap table. I win $5,000 that day. I give coach my money. He said, damn, son, what was you playing? I said, I was playing craps. He said, you playing the street way? I said, well, coach, I took the street way but I played it the correct way in the casinos. He said, oh, okay, all right. So he said, you know you can't get no more than this money back. I said, sure, I know. So we had the meal money. So I'm taking my little $20, $30 we get, trying to come up again. So I'm falling real short. So I said, you know what? I'm gonna keep my little $10 because I gotta get me something to eat. I think Ronnie Thompson was with me at the time. So then I'm walking around just looking lost and nothing to do. So I run into Coach again. Coach says, son, you want to gamble some more, don't you? I said, sure. He said, you want some of your money? I said, yeah, I would like to. He said, get the fuck out of here. So I'm looking at him like, okay, all right. So I walked off. So he said, Tillman, hold up one second. This is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna loan you $100. Whatever you do, we break down, split 50-50. Shook his hand, bet. Go to the blackjack table. Got that $100. I was playing $5 a hand. Got that all the way down to like $10. Ronnie said, man, you might as well bet the whole thing. No, it was $20. I said, nah, I'm gonna take my time. So I get that $100 up to $200. I said, you know what? I'm gonna take my loss, pay this man his money back, keep a little bit out here. So walked up to him, gave him, no, I won $100. No, yeah, I won $200. So gave him $100 back. Then he says to me, so then I give him $50. So no, I just gave him $100. That's what I did. I just gave him $100. That's what I did. So he said, son, didn't I give you a little bit more money than that? I said, yeah. He said, well, obviously the education that you're getting at this fine institution is not working for you right about now. So I said, okay, coach, well, what's going on? He said, well, give me my fucking 100 and give me my motherfucking 50. And matter of fact, while we at it, I need 25 from you because you wasted my fucking time. So I looked at him, looked at my money, and I'm saying to myself, motherfucker, you gonna leave me with $25 after all the work I done? But then I just walked away, not saying anything, learning a lesson. Everything that Coach Thompson did was always a lesson, whether it's in practice, whether it's in games, and that's what I would cherish for the rest of my life, even with my own kids. And that's all I want to say, because Gene, I know he's gonna say this, or Markham gonna send me that. And I tell the story Markham wanted me to talk about Coach Thompson. Obviously, you heard me say earlier, I kind of grew up in his house, and I really wasn't afraid of Coach Thompson. I saw a different man in the house setting as opposed to being in the—
Wasn't afraid at all. And it caused a lot of us a problem.
Yeah. Markham is right about that. Is the fact that I saw a different man at home. I didn't know how he was in the gym because I didn't really take a visit to Georgetown. It was really, and I told this story before, it was only really 2 schools I wanted to attend. No, 4 schools. It's a funny thing I say. Carolina was 1, Carolina was 2, Carolina was 3, and Georgetown was 4. And the reason why I didn't end up at Carolina, because my dad had asked the late Dean Smith and the current coach, Roy Williams, what was the graduation percentage of your black athletes? And I don't remember what the number was at that time, but it was kind of low, I guess. And then he asked him, well, what is the graduation percentage of your athletes as a whole? Again, that number was nothing that my dad wanted to hear. So me, knowing where I wanted to go, I said, damn, I got to stop this rolling ball down this hill if I'm going to get down to the Tar Heels. So I said, but Dad, I said, listen, most of those guys go hardship. And in a Coach Thompson fashion, I don't give a damn about no hardship. And right then and there, I knew I was going to Georgetown. And by the time I ended up there, I didn't realize the colorful language that he used because I really never saw it. But I've heard it before. I've heard him use it, but not in the manner, not in the the vicious ways that he uses it. As we all know, we heard the story. I speak 3 languages: profanity, slang, and English, and I speak profanity damn well. He was true about that. But for me, as Markham says, it was funny. And I laughed at every single thing that, if it was not on me, that he said to everybody else. I was called a laughing hyena motherfucker. I mean, you name it, I was called all those type of names. But at the end of the day, he played a joke on me. I'm not gonna get into that when I graduated, but I just want to thank Gene for putting this platform together, to have some of you guys to come on and share your stories. I wanted to get on here to support and tell my story and my background with Coach. Again, I'm glad to see a lot of you guys on here, and I'm getting ready to call him Anderson Cooper. I mean, John, you look just like Anderson. I'm sorry. I am sorry. But again, good to see you all, man. And Gene, I appreciate you, and thanks for having me on here, my brother.
Hold on. I just got Mark is selling it short. I just got to jump in here.
Thank you.
Christmas, Felix talked about practicing on New Year's Day. And Kurt was saying he had a Christmas Day off. Every year I was there, we practiced Christmas Day. Right. And my sophomore year, somebody messed up in practice. And Coach started yelling at him. Not gonna say who was, but one Mark Tillman, whose nickname is Giggles, he fell out laughing. Everybody else is terrified. And Coach turned around and said, we had, one of the managers was Sid Levy. He said, Sid, go to Wise Millers and get me a Peggy Special. Come here. Sid walked over, he gave him the money. Sid goes and he sits back in the chair, puts his arms out, eats his sandwich and says, I just want you motherfuckers to know I don't give a fuck about Santa Claus. And that killed me. Like part of me died inside. Like I was like, I've been called motherfuckers and you the dumbest motherfucker in the history of Georgetown basketball. I had never in my life heard somebody say, fuck Santa Claus. That just, was dumb. And with the Vegas thing, I was a manager for the Olympic team. And we flew across the country playing exhibition games. Denver and Vegas were the last 2. I bring up Denver because when we were in Denver, you guys will remember Big John loved watches. And he had a Movado watch that I loved. I'd never seen anything like that, country kid from Memphis. And we get to Denver. And by the way, we were getting, not like at Georgetown, we were getting $100 every other day for meal money. And instead of eating decent meals, I would go to McDonald's and get a cheeseburger and a cup of water because in my mind, I was saving up the loot. So when I got to Vegas, I was gonna break Vegas. I was 100% convinced. And when we're in Denver, I go to a jewelry store and because I'm with the Olympic team, the guy offers me a Movado watch for half price, which I easily could have paid for at that point because we'd had probably 4 or 5 cities, and I probably had 100% convinced. Yeah. Oh, without question. So because I'm with the Olympic team, the guy offered me a Movado watch for half. Steve, you got to
Steve Wolf, you got to go on mute, baby. You messing up our flow. We love you. You're a manager. You should know better.
So by the time we get to Vegas, I got a nice little stack, and when we first get there, and I'm underage, by the way, not supposed to be gambling, but the hotel we're staying in is the Barbary Coast, who the owner was a friend of Coach Thompson's, and we got a little pass to play. And within the first hour, I started off playing $5 tables, and I was losing. And in my mind, now I got to play $25 table so I can get my money back. And I'm losing. And by the way, Alonzo Mourning is with me. He's sitting right next to me. And this dude is hitting 17s and 18s. He didn't know what the hell he was doing, but he was hitting 17s and 18s and getting 2s and 3s and making out. Within an hour, I lose 75% of my money. And then the security guy comes up and asks me for my ID. And I start bullshitting. I'm like, oh, I think I left up in the room. Well, if you don't have it, you're gonna have to leave the floor. And as I'm going up to the hotel room, I'm thinking to myself, dude, you should have came 50 minutes ago. There's no way I'm leaving my money out here. So, and I was in a sweatsuit. I changed into a suit, put a tie on so I could look older. I still didn't look older, but I go back down there and I proceed to lose. Out of that 25% I had, I lost all except $25 from the thousands of dollars that I had saved up. And I was literally sick. And the next day, we're going to practice, and I always had to wait for Coach to get on the bus. He comes down and he puts his arm around me, and he says, son, I want to tell you something. While we're here, I'm going to take you to see a lot of things. Vegas is a place where they have great sights, and you see things you've never seen before. But I want you to remember one thing. This is a town built on losers and not winners. Boy, I was ready to shoot myself. I was like, you're a day late and $1 short. So that's my Vegas deal. I didn't make out like Mark Tillman did. And to this day, I can go to Vegas with $25 and have a good time. I'm good on losing money.
Hey, Gene.
Yes.
I have to say this to Bo also, because Bo was there. These young boys had it easy, had it good going to Vegas. I remember we played the Running Rebels down there. We weren't allowed to play nothing but slots. And I remember Coach Thompson making it clear. He said, don't let me catch you playing these games. And it was always the freshmen had to watch Coach Thompson and where the other coaches went so the team could go the opposite direction to different casinos. Man, hearing these stories about these guys playing craps, I'm like, man, Coach got soft in his old age, I guess.
Playing craps, wearing earrings, growing their hair long, getting tattoos. I even asked him about that, I said, Coach, if I had a tattoo like that, he said, I'd cuss your ass out. I thought so.
Felix, you made me think of something interesting, because I've been trying to just visualize with everything that's going on today. The racial strife is firm and front and center, the divisiveness, not so much in sports, although sports has been used as a political football of sorts. How do you think Coach in his prime, and I think Kurt and I had this conversation a little bit, how do you think Coach in his prime would be flowing today? Like, would he be front and center? Would he just be a capitalist? Where would he be?
Well, I can only speculate that Coach would be front and center because he's been front and center all his life. And I actually had a conversation last week with a reporter. And we talked about the Black Lives Matter movement. And I talked about the fact that it's interesting to me to see this going on in large mass. And I was glad that Coach got a chance to see that, because Coach was always a pioneer and always out front on issues. He always stood on principle. And if there was something that he believed in, no matter how wrong everyone else might think, he would never, I've never seen him second guess himself as to what direction he would take something, whether it was Prop 42, whether it was Well, let me say it like this also. Coach also led by example. And if you think about the things that he's done, the things he's accomplished in his life, you know, if you wanted to look at a man of principle, you want to look at somebody who would stick to their guns. Because Coach, I mean, from beginning to end, he was always criticized. The way he handled his players, not giving access to a 17-year-old, 18-year-old freshman, you know, could easily say something stupid in the press. Once he set his principles, that's what he lived by, no matter what the criticism. And because he was always out front, whether it was Prop 42, whether it was stopping and refusing to play a Big East game till somebody went up in those stands and snatched some of those racially motivated signs and things toward Pat, you know, threatening to walk off the floor with his team and not play the game unless you clear those signs out. That was Coach. So I'd imagine during this period, to the extent that they were interested in his opinion, he'd be front and center.
Appreciate that, Felix. Kirk Hall, you've been waiting patiently.
No worries. Listen, I feel lucky to go after Johnny I because I'm not going to repeat it, but he said so many things that I had on my mind about how Coach Thompson profoundly impacted my life. And as Johnny said, I've known this for 30, 40 years. It all kind of came flooding back here when he passed last week. And it was kind of strikingly overwhelming to me how it sort of hit me. And the stories started coming back. You know, I was a guy that went to Georgetown between 79 and 83. It's kind of a crossover period there where ECAC was sort of moving on to the Big East. Pat showed up. And I think the stories I want to share, Jeannie and I talked about it on Thursday after the Wednesday call. And there's some stories I have that I've just never really shared that they're different because they're not really basketball oriented as much as, you know, I was a kid that grew up in the Midwest outside Chicago, lily white neighborhoods and suburbs. Derek Jackson was from my hometown. Derek played at Wheaton Central High School. I played at the high school out in the burbs, Wheaton Warrenville. And Derek was my idol as a, you know, 12, 13, 14-year-old kid. My dad and I used to go to Wheaton Central games and watch Derek jump center at 6'2", win the tip, and then score all the points. He literally was my idol as a young guy growing up. I kind of lost track where he went to college. The reason I wore number 22 all through my life was because Derek wore it. And then when I came to Georgetown and said, Coach, can I have 22? He said, nah, because Derek was a, you know, some of you guys have heard Coach talk about Derek. Derek had a way of living. I wasn't around at the time, but all I noticed is Coach Thompson's whole tone and demeanor would change and get very reverent when he would talk about Derek, and how I don't think Coach admitted all that much that he learned things from other players, but I think Derek had some profound impacts on Coach Thompson and how he thought about things. And so anyway, I learned about how it wasn't a democracy when, you know, he wouldn't give me 22, and I kind of learned my place in the pecking order when fucking Gene shows up the year after I'm there and he gives Gene 22. I'm like, motherfucker, what the fuck's with that? It's the same democracy. David Blue and I laugh about this, right? David and I were the only two white guys in '83 when we graduated, and David was a hard rocker, right? And you know, it was like seniors controlled the radio in the fucking locker room. And David and I are looking at each other thinking, God damn, it's finally coming our way next year, man. We're gonna control that radio and be playing AC/DC and fucking pissing these guys out. We've been listening to fucking, you know, Prince and fucking all these guys for 4 years. And sure enough, we show up on the first day and he changes the rule. He's like, majority rules now. No longer seniors, now majority rules. and the radio stayed where it was. Anyway.
Kurt.
Hilarious.
Yeah, Kurt, you remember Coach's saying though about democracy, right?
Yeah.
He said it was a democracy. Everybody take a vote, and then he would make up his mind what the hell he wanted to do.
Exactly. So, I grew up, learning about the deflated basketball on the letterhead that came in the envelope and feeling really lucky I was getting these letters. But, as you all know, Coach Thompson hated to recruit. He hated getting on airplanes and flying around and kissing ass to guys. And what I came to realize later is he only recruited when he needed to. And, when he needed Pat, he went and got Pat. When Bebe was leaving, I thought I was in good shape when Bebe's leaving. I've been playing against the #1 point guard in the country in practice, Johnny, for a whole year.
Yeah.
And everyone, he shows up one day at the end of my freshman year and says, I just want to make an announcement that we just landed the #1 recruit in the country. He's a point guard from the South Bronx named Freddie Brown. And I'm like, motherfucker. I guess I'm going to be sitting on the bench.
I can't get a break.
No, but you know what? Somebody said it earlier. You think, I think Markham was saying it. Markham actually thought he could play at Georgetown, right? Walking on. And we have these views of ourselves when we're young, how good we think we are. And later in life, you look back and you realize how things went down and how it all flowed. And you're like, okay, now I really see the big picture. And anyway, let me get to the couple stories that Gene heard and that I want to share. I was a guy that was coming out of the Midwest. I wanted to play 2 sports in college. That was my big thing. I was playing, getting recruited for football, basketball, and baseball. I loved basketball and baseball. And I wanted to play 2 sports in college and go to the best school I could. No one, even though there was the, Danny Ainges out there and the guys who were playing 2 sports back then anymore, it was hard. No one would let me play 2 sports except really one coach. And when I came and visited Georgetown, the only reason Georgetown even knew about me was because of a guy that, helped Coach Thompson find Derek. I won't bore you with that story, but Coach Thompson let me play 2 sports. I went to Georgetown on a basketball scholarship, so that was my first allegiance. But it turned out over the 4 years, I was a better baseball player, relative to the competition, right? And so in baseball, I had 2 very good first years, a freshman, sophomore season. And Coach came and talked to me at the end of my sophomore year and said, what do you want to do with baseball? I said, Coach, I think I'd like to try to play professionally. And I said that, guys, at a point where I had no idea what I was saying. I had no reason to think that was even a dream I could, really execute into like some people. It was literally just a dream and an idea. And I only said that to him one time. But the rest of this story I want to tell, I just want you to keep in mind what he did for me around one of his guys that, as Johnny said, he treated everybody the same, whether it was the guys who never played like me or the best players like AI and Alonzo and Patrick and these guys who have those stories. I told him that one time. I'm at the end of my sophomore year, and the best college summer league in the country by a mile is a league in Cape Cod outside Boston called the Cape Cod League. Literally the top 50 players in baseball in the country go and play in the Cape Cod League. No one from Georgetown ever set foot in the Cape Cod League. And my coach was trying to get me into the Cape Cod League at the end of my sophomore year. Trying. We thought we had some shot. School year ended. I didn't get in. I went home all dejected, thinking I, should have got in. And I'm 3 days into being home back in Illinois, my phone rings. And it's a guy from one of the teams in the Cape saying, and I played shortstop my whole life. That's what I was, a shortstop. I picked up the phone. He said, hey, Kurt, do you play third base? I said, absolutely. And he said, can you be in the Cape in 2 days? I said, yep. So I rushed off, went to the Cape, started playing, ended up, I was the last guy on that team. Batting ninth, playing third base. But it was one of those moments in life is when you expand the pond you're in, you find out how you stack up. And I started batting 9th, then 8th, then 7th, then 6th, then 5th, then 4th. And anybody know about baseball, you know, the best hitters bat 3rd and 4th. And I started batting 3rd, and I could just do it. I made the all-star team. You know, I started really getting a sense of maybe I can fulfill this dream of playing professionally. And in the middle of that season, right, I get in the Cape. I don't even know Coach Thompson did anything for me. I just think I got lucky and got in, right? So if anybody knows where Boston is and where the Cape is, there's a town out in the far end of the Cape called Orleans. And we're playing an away game out in Orleans, a night game one night. And, you know, Dave Gavitt, who was a Boston guy, they had the Big East annual meeting every year in the summertime, which is when this league was going on, up in Boston. I'm sitting there playing third base one of those nights out in Orleans, and, you know, it's all white people out in the Cape. All right. And I look behind the backstop. This is 2.5 hours from Boston. And there's a big 6'11" black motherfucker back behind the backstop with a little white lady sitting there, and it's dark. I can't see that fucking well. I'm like, and it's the second inning, right? It's not like he came and like, hey, how you doing? Right? Coach Thompson has driven 2+ hours to see me play baseball out in the Cape. And I'm looking, I'm like, fuck, I get all nervous. I probably strike out a couple of times, make a few errors, right? And I'm every inning, the 3rd inning, the 4th inning, the 5th inning, the 6th inning, I'm looking back there. He's still fucking back there. I look back in the 7th inning, he's gone. Like a ghost. He sort of came in and left. And he did that season and the next season as well, because I played there the next summer, right? I never said anything to him about it. I knew he kind of wanted to do that and probably not let me know I knew it. So I'm thinking, why is this guy showing so much interest in me? And I knew he had let Derek play baseball at Georgetown. So you've heard the stories about how much he loved baseball as a young guy growing up in DC. Everybody thinks that was his #1, his best favorite sport. But I didn't appreciate that then. About 10 years after I've left Georgetown, I'm out of law school, I'm working. Pat McCardle, who you guys all know, is like the Georgetown archives guy, right? He calls me on the phone, he says, Kurt, you're not gonna fucking believe this letter I just found. I'm like, what are you talking about, Pat? It turns out that when Georgetown was in the ECAC South Conference, the commissioner of the ECAC South happened to also be the commissioner of the Cape Cod Baseball League. And what I pieced together and figured out is I went home, didn't make it in the Cape. Coach Thompson wrote a letter and made a phone call and said, hey, man, can you help this guy out? I mean, it was one of those letters that wasn't overhanded or demanding, just said, hey, one of my guys wants to play in the Cape. If you can help him out, really appreciate it. And that guy moved me probably to the top of the wait list. And I got the one phone call that said, hey, come play in the Cape. And, you know, I started getting recognition from scouts, and that had a big impact on me, I think, having a chance to eventually, I should have said at the top, but after I graduated Georgetown, I played 3 years in the minor leagues, fulfilled my dream, made it to AAA, got drafted in the 8th round by the St. Louis Cardinals, and, you know, ran out that dream that I had. So now back to, so I'm playing in the Cape. I know Gene and all the guys are down at school playing the Kenner League, all getting better than me. And I'm like, their skills are going like this, and I'm just staying. So I'm like, fuck, I better at least bring a ball with me and work out. So the first season I was up there, the first summer, I literally worked out every single day and came back to campus when we did pickup, and I was sharp and went into my junior year and all good. My senior year, though, I went back up there in the summer between my sophomore and my junior, senior year, and I didn't touch the ball the whole fucking summer. Right? And the other thing I wanted to say that Johnny touched on is Coach Thompson had a way of figuring out how we all tick, what made us tick. And he didn't treat everybody the same, you know? He had different touches for different people. I mean, Mike already told stories about how he pushed him to a level that he probably knew he would not cave and you know, and stop touching the rim. And he knew I was pretty hard-headed and pretty stubborn and pretty kind of prideful and principled. So just put that aside as I tell the rest of this. So I come back after my second fall, summer baseball season in the Cape, made the All-Star team, had an amazing fucking season. I show up in pickup the first day, and I literally am bouncing the ball off my feet, can't even dribble, shooting every shot's an air ball. And after the third day, he calls me up in the office and he goes, son, he goes, I don't want to fucking see you down here at the gym the rest of this preseason. And this is how he mind fucked me, right? He knew that I wanted to play pro baseball. He knew I just had this amazing summer. And every year, the way I would do the preseason there is I would play with you guys in pickup Monday through Friday. And then I go play 2 doubleheaders on Saturday and Sunday in the fall. And that's how I would split my time. Never really given either one of those things the full focus, right? And he kind of knew, I think, in retrospect, what it took to, you know, fulfill these goals. So he calls me down. He says, I don't want to see your ass down here anymore. And then he goes, which fucking pissed me off so much. He goes, and then you come make an appointment with Trina on October 14th, and we'll talk about whether or not you're going to be on the team. And I'm like, motherfucker, are you fucking, I'm thinking to myself, I just gave my blood, sweat, and tears to this fucking program for 4 years. I'm pissed off because I didn't play more, because guys like Gene came in and took all my time. I should, and I'm like, gonna not talk about being on the team. What the fuck? So I'm like, okay, I guess the only way that I'm gonna be sharp on the 14th is I've got to get in good shape. So I did what he said. I was at the top of my baseball skills. I played that fall season. I shit you not, I batted 670 in this league. Okay, and I was in the Washington Post like every other day, leading the league in hitting with this ridiculous batting average. And it turns out one of the scouts that drafted me from the Cardinals saw me in that Washington Post, and that's how I even found out I existed. And so, you know, there's a little, you know, connect those dots, right? So sure enough, I'm getting in shape. Huh?
Okay, I'm gonna stop.
Sorry.
Keep going, Kurt. Keep going. I'm trying to mute them.
No worries. So October 14th comes and I go down and start trying to get a meeting with Trina. And he's too busy. I can't get a meeting. I'm like, motherfucker, what am I? So I go in the locker room, I look on, you know, we run the mile, as y'all know, first, and I'm like, fuck, my name's on the fucking list. I'm on the bulletin board. It says my time, and I'm supposed to show up at the track at 8:30. I said, fuck it, I can't, you don't want to meet me, I'm gonna go run the mile. And I literally was in the best shape of my life, because it was the only thing I had to show him that maybe I, you know, I didn't, you know, whatever. And I run a 5:03 mile. I was just like,
okay.
And I remember you know how that went, right? You got up there, get on the line, ready, go. Looks at the stopwatch, he and Mary, they don't say shit to you, you're done. I'm looking for a little feedback. I get no fucking feedback. I just go to practice that day, and he never fucking said another word to me the whole fucking thing. I was on the team. He totally fucked with me with that, right? So we go through my senior year. Let's go to the end of the season now, right? I usually missed, because we went, you know, in the NCAA playoffs and tournament, I usually missed about 3 weeks of the baseball season. Because I was on a basketball scholarship, I would come late. And I always missed the trip to Florida that the baseball team took, which is the beginning of the kickoff. It's like spring training. It's a lot of scouts are down there, right? Looking at guys, but I never went. So we always played Syracuse at the end of the season, right? Last game of the season before we went in the NCAA. So it's the day before the Syracuse game. We're in McDonough practicing. And one of the coaches comes down and says, Coach Thompson wants to see you upstairs. I'm like, motherfucker, what does he want? So I go up. He never asked me that. I walk in his office. He goes, and I don't know, he had Stein or somebody go find this out. He goes, son, he goes, isn't the baseball team leaving for Florida tonight? I'm like, yeah. He goes, don't you think you should be with them? I'm like, no. He said, didn't you tell me you want to play pro baseball? I said, yeah. He's like, don't you think there's going to be some scouts down there that might see you play? I'm like, yeah, coach, but there's no fucking way I'm quitting this team right now, okay? I'm not going to be perceived as a quitter. There's no way I'm not finishing this out. It's been 4 years. I'm finishing this out. He goes, oh, really? He goes, I'm going to go down the hall here for 5 minutes, and I'm going to come back. And I want you to tell me what you think you should do. And he got up and fucking walked out. And I'm like, motherfucker, this guy, I know he's right. I know, but there's no way I don't want to quit. And if Scott Wolf's on, or Steve's on, so he comes back in, he goes, so motherfucker, what are you going to do? I said, Coach, I know you're right.
Damn.
I think I should go. He goes, motherfucking right, you should go. He goes, Steve Wolf is outside the gym right now. The van is running. The flight leaves at 6:45. He's going to drive you up to the fucking dorm. You get your baseball shit, you pack it up, and you go get on that motherfucking plane and go play in that Florida. And I did that. And sure enough, the scout who drafted me saw me play during that week down there. And that's the kind of thing, the way he manipulated all of us to, do the things that we knew we wanted to do, but probably couldn't figure out how to do them on our own. So Gino, those are my stories. I'm related to baseball, and needless to say, he had a profound impact on my life and was responsible for giving me chances that I never would have had without him.
Thank you, Curtis.
Thank you, Curtis.
As you was talking, Smitty, Smitty has no idea what we're doing, so he's trying to pop in now.
Thank you.
I'm going to let him go. Eric Smith, I'm going to let you go. Go ahead, Smitty. Go ahead, Smitty.
I just got off the
who's
golf
Eric
course,
Smith?
man. I just got off the golf course.
What'd you shoot?
Of course you did, but you're live, so you're going to have to talk now.
Hey, Smitty, I'll be back out there about 4:30 if you want to meet me back out there.
You know I ain't mad. You've been out there for 4:30 for 5 years.
No, I'm serious. I got to bring my son out there.
I ain't going to be out there.
All right.
I'm gone. I'm tired, man. What's up, Felix?
Hey,
Curtis?
is that Smitty? What you doing, man?
Y'all telling Thompson stories?
Yeah, pretty much. There's plenty of them to tell, right?
Well, I'll tell you, Will, one quick one here.
Okay.
It was one Saturday morning. I was laying up in the dorm, after the late night. And I get a phone call about 5:30 in the morning. Son, what are you doing? I said, Coach, I'm sleeping. Don't you know when a man get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and start running, and another man get up at 8 o'clock in the morning and man get up at 5 o'clock, start walking, and another man gets up at 8 o'clock and start running. You know that man that started running would never catch that man walking. And then
Never catch him.
No.
Never catch him.
And then hung up the phone, click up. I said, you gonna wake me up and tell me that shit. I was like, damn.
Yeah, we heard that one.
Well, Smitty, thank you for popping in. We appreciate that story, but you're gonna give us a better one than that. What's the next story?
Oh, the next story? Oh, the latest story that he did to me? I already told that. I know damn well. I know one time I had to go outside and scuff my shoes up on the sidewalk so I can get a new pair.
Okay, that's lovely. That's lovely. Well, we're gonna put you on mute right now because you don't know how to control yourself. So you going on mute, and we're gonna move this thing along because we love you. That's the only reason we're doing it. It's all love, Smitty.
Who's on here?
Who's up next?
That sound like Coach Stein. Hey, Mike, that's a Coach Stein. Coach Stein, see, y'all guys won games and got to championships, and Coach Stein would make us wear our socks till you could see through them.
Yeah.
See, y'all won some games, and y'all got new gear, and ooh, look at those nice Nike shoes.
Yeah.
Nah. So for him to scuff up his shoes to get a new, I understand.
You understand.
Johnny know what I'm talking about too.
Yeah. We got
Hey,
two
Felix,
pair of
you know what I can
Converse.
say to you, Felix?
We got two pair of Converse. That was it. And I was playing the year that we transitioned from Converse to Nike, and it was the greatest year of my life. We went from two pair of Converse white,
Johnny
white leather and blue. Hey, Smitty, how are you?
Hey, good, man.
Pretty
You right?
bastard. And then going home and having 6 pair of Nikes to take home and give to your brothers and your friends. Biggest transition I've ever seen.
I can't imagine.
You're a convert. That's why Nike rules the world. Converse gave you 2 pair. Nike gave you as many pair as you could put in your suitcase, and it was stunning.
But he didn't give us all 6 of them though.
Everybody wanted them. I could have been a millionaire if I sold them, but I kept them. You know.
Yeah, but he never gave us all 6 at one time.
Speak for yourself.
Oh, shit! I just told you I had to go outside and stuff him up.
Hey, Johnny.
Yes, sir.
Johnny, is that what they call white privilege?
I guess so. I guess so.
Well, I think it speaks to. I think it speaks to. What I always admired about Big John is his ability to treat each and every one of us differently or independently. So those the conversations that Kurt just shared, the memories that Kurt just, I had no freaking idea. Like I had no idea that you were going through that, which was part of your journey. But not that puts Big John on any type of plateau for me, but it makes sense. I mean, he was the guy that was going to push you and challenge you in a way that Mike spoke to, and also what you spoke to, Kurt, because he told me from the rip, from the door, you will never play in a game. I am bringing you here to be a practice player. I was good with that. Now, the average person might not have been, but that worked for me. So I think he had an innate ability to tap into something, good or bad, because if he pushed you the wrong way, he could push you off the edge.
Yeah, like he did a few of people.
I hear you in the background. So yeah, that was one of the things that I most appreciated. But I want to holler at Kai right now, because you spoke the other night, and I was really, really impressed. So Smitty, don't say anything right now. It's not your turn. Okay?
Oh.
Okay, stay quiet over there.
You gotta let me say it before I forget it.
Okay, Kai, 1 second. Go ahead, Smitty.
You talking about what Big John did? He surprised the hell out of me because somebody told him I was a scratch golfer. And I don't know where he heard that. I think Aaron Reed might have told him. And Big John got on a phone call with me one night, called me up and got on this phone with this guy and was trying to get me to, I guess he was trying to get somebody to sponsor me or something. Because he was asking the guy, how do you think Smitty would do? And the guy just told me, he said, John, he won't have no chance. Those guys that have been playing golf, they were brought up in golf. And he would be at a big disadvantage because they grew up playing golf and he just started playing, never had lessons, never taught anything like that. And, but it was funny that he would reach out to me like that to try to help me. And that came out of the blue. So you can say what you want about him, but the man, he was honest with it when he told you. So he just told the guy, he said, well Smith, the guy said, I don't think it'll work out. So we're just going to scratch this.
Okay.
That's
well,
all
I think a Hoya golf tournament possibly can come out of that. So we're gonna put you in charge of that, Smitty. Kai, you up, Kai? You're next up.
Go ahead, Kai. My bad.
Thank you, Gene. I saw James trying to get in. James, did you want to say something before I go?
Going in order. It's okay. Gene, he wants you to speak.
No. It doesn't matter to me. It's one of those things.
Okay.
Yeah, whoever jumps in, please jump in.
I'll go after you.
Okay. Okay.
My bad.
No, that's okay. I just saw him trying to get in. First, my condolences to the Thompson family. I came in '88 with Ronnie Thompson. Condolences to him, JT3, the sister, and the family. And then Gene, honored to be here. And not in a million years would I ever think that I would be speaking to you. I'm old enough to remember watching you play and being inspired by that. seeing you on my black and white TV in the kitchen. You know, you represented, and that whole team represented what Hoya Paranoia was all about. And it made a tremendous impact on me. And I just want to thank you for that. Thank you for inviting me here. It means a lot to me. You know, I feel like most of my life I've been trying to sweep these stories under the rug, you know, because they're glaring stories of my teenage years, and you know, the pain that I went through. But now having this platform and the other Zoom calls is making me very reflective, in a sense that, you know, you got to look beyond yourself and embrace all the greatness that Coach Thompson created with his mind and the culture that he established at Georgetown. My journey is a little different than a lot of other people's journeys, because I got into Georgetown, and before I even decided to go, I came to, I believe it was a Black Student Weekend, and I mailed Coach Thompson a VHS tape. You know, it was my mixtape. The young guys call it mixtapes now. You know, it was a tape of my highlights. And somehow he was able to orchestrate a tryout for me. And I remember going on the stage with Perry McDonald, Dwayne Bryant, Smitty, and Big John Turner, and playing my life out, you know, giving it my all, and playing enough to impress him. You know, it went all downhill from there, but it was enough. It was enough for him to tell me that he had a spot for me if I wanted to come to Georgetown. And by the way, Mark, thanks for the shout out earlier. It means a lot to hear your voice. And Coach Thompson was very kind to me and my family on that visit. He took me on a tour in his big Cadillac. I think it was a Cadillac that seemed like his front seat was actually in the back seat. And he took us all up to his office, and he showed us some documentation, some papers that had a profound effect on me. It was papers that documented the sale of 272 slaves that were sold in 1838. And here I am in 1988 looking at these papers. And it told me that Coach Thompson had an idea and a consciousness about what was going around him. And he wanted to kind of impart that message onto myself and my family. And as much as things have changed, they didn't change. And that's what those papers were about. It wasn't the transformative change that oppressed people are looking for. His program was still somewhat a sophisticated way of having Black labor finance the school. Not too much different from the plantations that the Jesuit priests owned in the 1800s. But the genius of Coach Thompson is that he was able to use that and change that social strata, that hierarchy of status and social immobility. And he was able to provide scholarships to young Black athletes. He was able to create a college experience that we wouldn't have had that opportunity, and give us that opportunity to actually get a degree from a very prestigious university. And it was up to us to do the rest. And that classroom has taught me so many different things about the game. You know, I come from Brooklyn, where, you know, the game is played much differently. It was more about the flash, you know, making somebody look bad. Coach Thompson showed me the aesthetics and the science of basketball, showed me the different angles, make an entry pass. I had no clue about that. He divided the court in half symmetrically. He asked one of the managers to take a masking tape and divide the court, and taught us about retreating to the line of the basket. All those things were just mathematical and physical concepts that I never saw the game in that way. That classroom also afforded me to witness social change. I was there when he walked out for Proposition 48. I was there when he, I think, Gene, you spoke about when he double fisted, right? That's our full court press. When he double fisted, we knew what that was. Full court press, man to man. The opponents knew what that was. That was Hoya paranoia. And the rest of the world, they knew that double fist meant black power. Whether it was his intention or not is irrelevant, because it was still iconic in its imagery. In the 80s, basketball was very polarized. You had the Lakers, Celtics, Magic, Bird. Then you had Georgetown. You know, Georgetown represented black pride. It represented so much that black people were able to look up to. Now, I thank Coach for that classroom, that he turned McDonough Arena into a classroom. And out of all the classes that I've been to at Georgetown, that's the classroom where I learned the most. I remember everything in that classroom. I passed down those gems of wisdom to my kids and my family. I take them into work. So Gene, I really thank you, you know, for allowing me a voice to speak. Really appreciate it. Like I said, you know, the brotherhood that I was trying to sweep under the rug, I'm embracing now. I see you, Mark, right now. Mark, thank you for the shout out. I really appreciate that. That was very heartfelt. I didn't even know you knew I existed.
Get out of here, man. You just don't have a curly head no more that you come back.
And now I know why you were heckling in the background. You were so relaxed. Now I know. That's a beautiful thing. But Gene and the rest of the brothers out there, thank you very much. I'm passing the torch to the next brother. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're up, James.
James Lee?
I knew I should have gone before. Yeah, I knew I should have gone before that, but that was great. So.
Yeah, that was a mic drop, fam.
Keep your timeline next time, okay? Let's see. I'll start off by talking about how I met Coach the last time I saw him. So I got an interview for the manager of the basketball team, 1986, and I went down to the basketball office and I could barely find it through McDonough. I was like going through the hallways or whatever. There's no signs. And anyhow, I knock on the door and Coach Thompson answers and he wouldn't let me in the office. I had to talk to him like in front of the office. And I'm 5'4", and he opens the door and he yells out to Miss Finley, he goes, "Mary, they sent me another runt." So that was my first experience with Coach Thompson. So I was going, yes, sir, that's great. And anyhow, the last time I saw him was not this past season, but the season before that. I took my daughter out to DC to watch a game. And I snuck my way down, where his seat is. I don't know how I got past the Capital One security people or whatever, and took my daughter. And he used his classic line I've heard him say a million times. He looks at my daughter right in the eye, and he goes to her, thank goodness you got your mom's looks. So that was my, he always said that out. So that was pretty funny. But one of the lessons, I love that as a manager, he always treated me like a player. Like we've said that before in our calls, and that was really special. But one of the best lessons as a manager I learned was in terms of, we always had the cleanest bench in the Big East. We weren't going to see towels lying around or cups lying around, and then the biggest thing we did was in the locker room. We had that great job of throwing away all the soap after showers, but making sure that that locker room was the cleanest locker room. We left it better than when we got there. Talk about the life lessons that I've taken every workplace or my marriage or whatever it might be is, leaving somewhere better than before than you got there. So that was really important to me. And glad I never have to do that again in terms of throwing away showers, soaps and showers. So that was great. I have a quick little story. I'll change the name of this girl that I'm going to talk about the story with. So I was in Boston, and like we said, we were playing Boston College, and we had those fun jobs of doing laundry. So back in the 80s, there was something called a payphone. Maybe you remember that. So anyhow, so I had a couple quarters, and I had a crush on this girl. We're going to change the name. We'll call her Dory Dwyer. And she was in Boston. And so I called up Dory, and I'm talking to her, while the machines are going, the washing machines are going. And she goes, well, where are you staying? I go, well, we're not supposed to say where we're staying, but we're staying at the Coffee Place Marriott. But forget I told you that. Don't remember we're staying at the Coffee Place Marriott. So talking to her, and then I hear the, please deposit 25 more cents to stay on the line. And I'm like, I have a whole bunch of quarters. So I'm like, but you know what? I go, Dory, why don't you call me back here at this number? 617, blah, 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 whatever the number was. So I go, call me back at this number. Call back this number. And I had a whole bunch of quarters. But anyway, I hung up. So I'm waiting. And I'm like, oh my gosh. I know she called the Coffee Place Marriott. I know this. So anyway, about like 5 minutes later, I finally get a phone call at the payphone. I'm like, Dory, what did you go? I talked to a nice man. I go, Dory, I know you talked to Coach Thompson. I know it. What? I told you to call me back anyway. So long story longer, I come back and we're having dinner at some restaurant, and we finished laundry. I try and slink into the very last table. 1 second later, I go by the name James now. I used to go by Jaime. I hear this, Jaime. I'm like, oh my gosh. And it's Coach Thompson. So I go over to Coach, and he goes, son, do you know a girl named Dory Dwyer? I'm like, oh. I go, yes. He goes, she likes you a lot. She likes you a lot, Jaime. I go, is there anything else you want me to tell Jaime for you? So that was my, he goes, son, if you ever tell anybody where we're staying again, you're walking back to DC. So that was my story. So anyhow, I was just great for Coach. I learned a lesson like, if there's rules, pay attention to those rules. And the other thing I love to do was, Coach, when I was there, he didn't come with a team. If we're on the road for playing Madison Square Garden or wherever we were, Boston Garden back in the day, he would meet us later on. And we'd have to meet him at like the press room or like whatever the ticket gate or whatever. And I would have to catch eyes with him and Miss Finland. And then I would just turn around and so he'd know, I'd just start walking the coach's room, and he would know just to follow me, so it looked like he was there. And that was I love that moment. I love catching eyes with Miss Finland, and I'd catch eyes with Coach Thompson. And I knew that he would be following me, that he trusted in me, that I was going to lead him to, not the wrong locker room or not the wrong way, look like he's confused, but he could have his sense that he knew where he's going. And I just loved leading him. I was like strutting in that hallway. I felt so powerful, so passionate about being part of the Georgetown basketball team. So that was great. I also loved, if ever Miss Michael or Miss Finland dropped a pen, and even if I was 80 feet away, you'd see all the managers run and sprint, and we would dive and play our own football game and hit the floor with our shoulders and grab the pen, and we'd hand it up to Miss, here's your pen, Miss Michael. So I love doing that. Let's see. That's really about it. I'm from California. In my junior year, 1987, we played Long Beach State in Long Beach, and we actually had a team trip to Disneyland. And so I'm from California, so Coach Thompson thinks I'm, Disneyland expert. I've never been there, but whatever. So he goes, son, everybody else scattered out, and he's like, son, you have to walk me to, at the time, Michael Jackson's Captain EO was a big exhibit there at Disneyland. So I had no idea how to walk to Captain EO's, so I just walked in there. Somehow I just figured out a way, or got the map, and I'm looking at it. But anyhow, I got him and Miss Finland safely to Captain EO's ride at Disneyland. So, and the last story I have for him was, so I'm Mexican American, and but I don't know how to speak Spanish. So Coach would always say, Jaime, you're the only goddamn Mexican American I know doesn't know how to speak a goddamn word of Spanish. So, that way I learned how to speak Spanish a little bit. So I thank Coach for helping me to communicate and add a fourth language there. So those are my four little treatments, little stories. So on to Scott.
James, thanks for sharing. Anytime I hear a manager talk, I always think about how that's the job I really wanted. Like, just because he made you guys such a part of the team. I mean, you guys were a part. You guys had jerseys on, as if the way he saw it, right? There was no distinction. And the other thing that you touched on was diving on the floor. I remember first getting there and diving on the floor to fucking wipe the sweat. If there was sweat on the floor, it was. And I was like, okay, that's our job. Like, and during the game, actually doing that, and nobody was better at it than Ralph Dalton. Ralph Dalton was the fucking best at it. But it was just one of those things. You thought for a second, like, is this passive? Is this are we the sub here? But really, it was empowering. It was fucking referees loved it when you did it. Every announcer, it counted everything that they thought about our program. And the only other thing I want to touch on, James, that you brought to the forefront for me was walking through the airport with the whole crew. That shit for me was the best. Just because, I mean, we could have had a dog shit practice. We could hate each other, whatever. But for that moment, when we walked through the airport, everybody was checking us out from head, because those busted ass suits we had on, except for Kirk Hall. Kirk Hall shit was nice. The suits we had on didn't match, but we were uniformed and we were in sync, and we were coming to whoop that ass. Next day,
the only important piece of luggage I had to grab first off the airplane in the turnstile, that was Coach Thompson's luggage. So that was the most important one. I can forget everyone. Oh, and Miss Finland's, but those two, anybody else I could forget. So
Scott Evans.
Hey, Gene, appreciate it. Thanks for having me, and thanks for Markham sending the invite. This has been great stuff. And, I can't really add too much more as far as what everyone said. I mean, he treated everyone differently, but loved us the same. I'm going through my mind, thinking of all these different stories. But I'll say the one thing that impacted me the most, as far as before being a manager at Georgetown was ever a thought, in my first interaction with them. I was a freshman at Georgetown, and I actually came there and played baseball for most of my freshman year. But needing to have money, I actually got a job in the cage. And so, yeah, as you know, the cage, players, coaches, everyone walks through there and has the common courtesy and say hello and whatnot. So I never really interacted with Coach Thompson. But one day after a game, I think it was a late Saturday game, they flew in. All the stuff needed to be watched the next morning. I was the first person there the next morning, probably about 7 a.m. on a Sunday, to watch everything, went through everything, put them all together. And all of a sudden, when I looking through everything, there was a jersey of one of the freshmen who were later transferred was gone. And it wasn't there. So I looked up and down in the laundry, everywhere, to figure out where the shirt was, in the cage, in the gym, everywhere I could think of where this shirt might be, but it was gone. So my first thought process, what's everyone going to say and whatnot? Am I going to be blamed for it? And things of that nature. But what happened, my first interaction was basically couple of days later, he came through, Coach Thompson came to the cage, and all the past times he would nod or say hello. We never really spoke, but he stopped and he said, "Son, I heard you were the boy who got one of my jerseys." And I was, so that meant I'm like, he's blaming me for a jersey that I didn't take. And so that there was about 3 to 4 seconds of awkwardness. My eyes were bug-eyed. I couldn't say a word. I was kind of in shock because I was like, I know I didn't do this. I know it's not me. Why is he putting the blame on me? And so that 3 seconds went by. It seemed like, I don't know, 30 minutes. And then he calls off and he says, "MF, you gonna say something?" And so my thought process was, you know, here I am during '89 and '93, and this is Alonzo, Dikembe, Dwayne, Mark, all them. And the only thing I could say, it was a sir, with all due respect, if I was going to take something, I wouldn't take this freshman's jersey. And so he just looked at me, gave me that smirk smile, and went on. Fast forward my sophomore year, Marcus came to me early part of sophomore year. Markham, sorry, came to me early sophomore year and started questioning me and asked me about being a manager and things of that nature. And I'm thinking, oh, great, this would be good. And so when I first started to train with Markham and the rest of them, he came up to me and said, "Hey, Scott, the first thing you do when you get in there and you see Coach Thompson come down, make sure you have the courtesy to go introduce yourself, say you're trying out for position and things of that nature, just to make that step." So of course, I saw him come down the stairs, and Coach Thompson started walking to the bleachers, and I ran over and said, "Coach Thompson, my name is Scott Evans. I'm here working out for the manager position for next year." And he's like, "Son, I know who you are. You're the MF who took down our jersey." And again, gave me that same smirk and smile. And so from that point on, it's been, you know, it's always that way he touches you and the way he says things. And he had never believed that from me, but I think from the standpoint of, it's you hear all the media now talking about different things. You hear the names of people mentioned, but again, he treated everyone differently, but he treated everyone the same. And I can't repay him enough for everything. I mean, coming from, I think the last thing I'll say is, you know, he always started out a lot of times saying son, then MF, or son this, or son this. And coming from Iowa, single mom, really not a father figure, for the most part, that was the first one I really had. Anytime you started someone with a son, I really didn't care what was next, whether I was a motherfucker, where I was anything. He started out with a son, and that just in itself, I didn't even really hear anything after that. So I think that's been the biggest thing, and you know, I can't appreciate enough. And again, thank you all for you know, for this and being a part of it. And I definitely want to stay engaged, and I just appreciate it.
Appreciate that, Scott. You touched on something that I mentioned earlier. Like, this really, truly is a celebration of Coach's life, but more importantly, the more we celebrate each other, we celebrate that life even that much more. And clearly, we're all of age now. We've been doing that without a doubt. But again, I think for the public to witness this, even if they only saw 5 minutes, that's my push. Because I mean, some of these stories, some of these individuals on this call have impacted me in a way that I'm not even sure that they're aware of. And just to know the journey from a real personal standpoint, to me, helps me continue to move forward. So I appreciate that, Scott. I think there's only one other person. That's Rob Bell, who came in late. Rob, can you unmute yourself? And you got the microphone if you can, because I've tried to unmute you. Okay, you're up, baby. Appreciate you, man. Okay. Good to see you, man.
What's up, Jay? Good to see you, always. Sorry I was late.
So Rob, before you go, we just want to know, are you in the Dominican? Are you in Paris? You know, where you at, man? You live in large. We all know it. You know, I just want to know where you at.
I'm just in Florida. Just Florida. Nothing exciting. Just in Florida. So, but thank you for hosting and having me, Dean, and you know, it's been really special, you know, the Zoom calls and this, and hearing the different stories and getting the different, images of Coach from everyone. I'm from New York. I was a manager, or as I like to say, player manager, because I got to play in practice for 1 year. From New York, graduated in '91, so I overlapped with Alonzo and Dikembe and Markham and Kayode and Tillman and those guys. So I got a couple of stories, but the thing about Coach that I really, appreciate and love is his ability to recognize in each and every person what they needed. And he was really a genius at that. And someone on the call earlier said, he treated everyone different. He realized what our strengths were and what our flaws were and where we needed to go. And he had a way of making us uncomfortable in order to fix those flaws that we had. And the one story I have is I'm from Harlem, and I interned in high school on Wall Street before getting to Georgetown. So I was just sort of looking for an angle to make some money. And I think it was my sophomore year, I started up a little blackjack game. We're basically, as you all know, we got meal money. And I saw that as an opportunity. So I started up, blackjack game, friendly blackjack game for money. As you all know, managers were brought on. We all had to have good grades and kind of was supposed to keep the players and the guys in line. And here I am, starting up gambling in order to get meal money from folks. And I won't say the names to protect the guilty, but several of the folks on this call I know were on that ring. And it was pretty fun. We had a good time with it. But as you all know, when money's involved, it does start to get, emotions get involved. There was some fisticuffs that occurred, on a couple of the evenings. I don't know if John Turner's on the call, but I remember whenever we played with JT, whoever he was dealing, if you just kept hitting, eventually all you have to do was say 21, and you just take the dough until someone hit John to the fact that it wasn't, somebody had busted. And at that point, John would be like, hold on! And he would start counting. But so we were actually in Vegas, and I believe we were in Alonzo's room, and I called together a game. And, we were having our game going, and, money was exchanging, and there was a knock at the door, and it was Coach Thompson. And I was scared out of, I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna lose my job. This is, so I immediately panicked. I ran into the bathroom, and, there was a shower curtain, and I was slimmer back then. I got behind the shower curtain, I hid in the bathroom, and I heard him come in, I heard his deep voice, and everyone scattered. I heard the bathroom door open, and, and I don't know whether he walked in or not, but I was hiding behind that shower curtain, and I didn't hear anything. I waited till it got a little quiet, and, I thought, okay, I'm good. I left, went back, to my room, and I thought, okay, I'm good, So the next day, nothing came of it. We go back, probably about 4 days later, we're having a practice in McDonough, and, we're having sits us down, we're all sitting down, and, manager, I'm standing over there, I'm thinking everything's fine. I wasn't involved, and, and he didn't mention it, so I thought everything was good. So he's giving a talk, and he's talking about some play that we can't run. Somebody can't get the team. And he's just really frustrated with the team. And then he looks at me, and then he says, and I got motherfucking managers running gambling rings. And I was like, okay. So the gig was up. I was busted. I literally just almost fainted right there. And you know, but he had a way of that spotlight. We all had it. Every person in that room, I'm glad he's not addressing me or talking about me right now. But you know, he would make, whenever he put you on that spotlight, he'd make you go home to your room, and you'd be thinking about it, and you'd be mad, and you'd be watching everyone else with the TV. But you're thinking about, well, what am I going to do to, you know, either some people would be like, I'm leaving. You know, Patrick talked about it the other day, like, I'm getting the fuck out of here. He's probably motherfucker once too many. But you know, most of us would stay, and we think about, well, what do I have to do to fix this, and how do I, you know, get this right? Because I want to stay, and I love that about Coach. He had a way of just, you know, pushing us in the direction that we need to go. So I love that. And then the only other story, I just remember when I graduated, I went, you know, I went to work on Wall Street, and I just remember there was some sort of a buffet dinner, and I just remember thinking, oh, I'm home. You know, I'm a man. It's okay, Coach is going to respect me now, and you know, and I just remember being on the buffet line, and I was behind Coach, and then David Falk was there, and they were having a conversation, and I came up with my plate, thinking, you know, and I had my suit on. I'm thinking, I'm grown up, and I was dishing up some food, and I was right next to them, and I guess Coach was saying something important to David, because he looked at me, and he said, "Can I get some motherfucking bring that along?" And I was like, okay, I guess I'm not quite appeared yet.
You thought things had changed.
I thought things had changed. I thought I was, you know, I'm like, you know, I have a job, I'm gainfully employed. No, nothing had changed. But you know, in hindsight, I just look back and I think about, you know, how he shaped me, he molded me, and always encouraged me to, you know, to go in the right path. In fact, he got me an internship at Coach of working for David Falk while I was a manager, and I thought I was going to be a sports agent. And I just remember Coach brought me into his office, and he also knew I was finance manager, international management, and I was intern there. And he said, you know, what are you going to do? And I said, I think I want to be a sports agent. He said, why? And I said, you know, I don't know. I like it. I love sports, and I think it would be a good career for me. He said, you know, just because you love sports doesn't mean you're going to love the business of sports agent, being a sports agent. I mean, we had a 30-minute conversation about how difficult that business was and how the ins and outs of what goes on. And for those of you that know that business, know it's a very difficult and oftentimes, you know, the things that happen and the corruption and so forth. He went into it and he spelled it out for me. And I ended up going the route of Wall Street, and it worked out really well for me. And I just always appreciate the candor, the honesty that he gave me. And he didn't, you know, he would have helped me, you know, go the route of the sports agent. He got me the internship with Falk, but he gave me the realness, and you know, I fully, I just appreciate that to this day, because it really was the right decision in hindsight. So, but you know, that's all I got. I just really appreciate it, and I just hope that we can all keep this going. Gene, this is amazing. Thank you, and I just want to be part of this continuing and supporting Patrick and his endeavors. Whatever we can do to keep this legacy going, I'm all in. So thank you.
Thank you for that, fam. We really appreciate that. We see you living large back there with the Bose joints in, but it's all love. This is not going to be, again, if anything, the pandemic has taught us we're closer than we really think, right? And I think we knew that beforehand. Again, Big John's deal, this is a celebration. Thoughts and everything, hearts, condolences, all that goes to the family. We are going to keep this going in the collective fashion. As it relates to this right now, I want to thank everybody that posted up. We've heard from everybody. If we want to keep it flowing,
Dean, hold on. Before you wrap it up.
Okay, yes, sir. I'm quick to wrap things up, by the way. But go ahead, Mark.
Let's keep it real. Out of everybody on this call, if I'm not mistaken, I think you're the only one that won the chip. And I'd be very interested to hear from the guys who came before you, what that meant to them in 1984 when y'all knocked Houston off, given that they were the guys who kind of laid the foundation before y'all got there. So Smitty, Frazier, John Irwin, Kurt Call. Let's hear it.
Well, Mark, let me tell you a quick story that kind of exemplifies Coach Thompson in terms of his confidence, in terms of how he worked. You were not going to outwork Coach. And I distinctly remember my senior year, we were having practice, and somebody did something stupid, jumped their head, threw the ball out of bounds. There was some crazy play that he made, pissed Coach off. He blew his whistle and stopped practice, and he said, "Look, I am going to win a national championship." As he said, "You could either be here or not be here, but I'm going to win a national championship." 2 years later, they lost in the final 8. 2 years after that, they were in the final. That exemplifies what Coach is all about. Now, as far as when you guys finally won it, I think, and everybody will have a chance to speak for themselves, but it was an immense source of pride amongst all of us. An immense source of pride, particularly because I guess his recruiting pitch to us when they were 3-23 and 12-14 and 13-13 to get us there. He says, "You have an opportunity to create something. I know this isn't a well-established program, but you can create one." So while a lot of the guys from the earlier years, like I was telling you about Merlin, Jonathan, Greg, as a matter of fact, I don't know if I mentioned, Merlin is still the second leading rebounder in Georgetown University history behind one guy. And we know who that one guy is. So the fact that we saw the completion of that journey gave us an immense sense of pride.
Yeah. And even piggyback on that, even being, when we were junior years, he told us help was on the way. And then came Patrick. and then to see the guys win it that you played with, it was a very much sense of pride, man. And I was, really thrilled for them and happy for them. We couldn't pull it off, but we just felt like we won when they won.
I agree with Jeannie and with Smitty. And John always was somebody who told you the history that if all of you, I'm sure when you played, he mentioned Merlin and Derek, and he was very, very aware of the journey that he created and of the players that came before you. And he made you aware of it. And for me, I was not surprised, but I was thrilled. Like I thought we could have done it, Smitty. I guess my senior year, we lost the game to go to the Final Four. I thought it was just a matter of time. Yeah. John had a will, and it was going to happen.
Yeah.
It was an immense source of pride, but it wasn't a surprise. It was coming, and it was coming, and you guys did it, but it was coming. There was I was not surprised in the slightest. I was proud and happy,
100%.
but not surprised at all.
Johnny, I don't know if you can remember. I remember this like it was yesterday. Craig missed a finger roll at the buzzer against Iowa.
At Iowa.
No, he didn't miss a finger roll. He didn't block his shot.
No, I thought he did a back iron right out. He was right there and missed the finger roll, and that would have at the buzzer, and it didn't go in. It went out, and now we would have won by 1 if that had gone in. That's what I remember.
I remember like it was yesterday because Sleepy and I, they were doing an inbound pass, and Sleepy and I ran into each other and fell down. The guy got open, he dribbled in.
Someone hit a jumper and hurt us. Yeah.
No, he went in. The guy went in and made a layup, but Craig went to block it, and his hand got caught in the net.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Coach talks about that specifically that way.
Yeah, he got caught.
He said
caught in the net.
He said 1 block shot away from the Final Four is what he called it.
Yeah.
He should never got to that point though.
We should have beat them.
Yeah.
About 15, man. 15 and a half time.
At the half, right?
So I have a reflection on what Markham said. So, we missed it by a whisker in 82. I graduated in 83. Gene and the guys win in 84. I've just gotten drafted. I'm down in Florida at spring training. And so now I'm kind of in a group of guys in an athletic setting with a whole bunch of dudes, and the games are on TV. And I remember having this feeling of pride and ownership, almost as if I was there, but not. And these guys around me couldn't understand how I was acting the way I was acting. And then when we won, I literally remember going out. I was staying in this hotel, literally going out on the highway and like just celebrating. And I think I remember just like screaming in happiness and I just literally, Gene, felt like we were there with you. You know, it was the ownership you felt about that, having gone through that common experience and knowing that the mountain finally got scaled.
Yeah.
The other reflection I have, I remember, I tell my kids this, and I've used this story for years, is what's so magical about athletics is literally in that 82 game, I remember David Blue and I sitting there looking at each other. You went from the highest feeling of euphoria with 14 seconds left and looking at that clock and being in that timeout and thinking, we just won this game. We're going to be national champions. To 14 seconds later, you have felt one of the lowest lows that you've ever feel in your life. And that just for me was like the epitome of what makes athletics so unbelievable. Is the highs and the lows that can come at you so fast. You know?
1 point. I just wanted to get back at Gene because he took my damn bed. I wanted to get back after he won. I wish I was around him so I could have got that champagne from him.
That's why they got a mute button on these things. You need a mute button. You need a mute button. Big Mike, you got anything to say before I jump in on this?
Yeah, you're talking about the Iowa game. That was a bigger heartbreak to me because we were picked to beat. If we made it through, we were picked to beat Louisville in the Final Four. We matched up best with Louisville than anybody else. But in that Iowa game, we played against a guy I played in high school, Vince Brookins, who had the best game. I think he had like 28 points. He had the best game he ever had against us.
Yeah, man.
And so it was like double jeopardy because I heard it from all my friends in Cleveland. Vince Brookins beats Mike Frazier. You know, it's like, wait a minute, hold on, wait a minute.
Yeah.
But like I said, you know, when Patrick was getting ready to come in and he was visiting the school, he stayed with Kurt. I don't know, Kurt, if you were there or Coach sent you home, you and David and Andre were in Henley.
Yeah, we were
And
there.
Patrick came to stay with us during a visit. But I don't know if you were on campus or not.
I wasn't there then, I don't think.
But Andre was there, and Patrick came in, and Patrick was this quiet, timid guy. And all I remember is that Andre Hawkins, who was the manager, had a football, and we were all sitting down on the floor in the living room, and Andre tossed the ball to Patrick. Patrick caught it, and Andre said, "Fumble," real loud. And that was for me and Andre, and we jumped on Patrick. And we just kind of roughed him up a little bit, you know. But then all of a sudden, I had better sense. I took off. Andre couldn't leave. He got stuck there with Patrick. And the next thing I remember is I come back out, and Patrick's got Andre in a headlock, you know, just sitting there holding him. And I was like, oh, man, this is going to be a long 4 years coming up for you guys. But seeing Patrick evolve, and then this, like you said, and seeing that game when they won the championship, yeah, a little bit of you was with him, you know, on the court. because you felt the blood, sweat, and tears that they went through. And it was an honor to be in the same company.
Hey, what's up, Big Mike? I didn't know you was on there, man.
Not much. How you doing, Smitty?
Damn, I've seen you in a long time.
I know, man. Too long.
That was a good question, Mark.
Yeah, it was a dope question. Next time you need to let me know you're going to ask a question like that, though, yo. Let me know. For me, having the relationship with the cats that I had in 79 and 80.
Get my beard back.
And knowing what it meant for Georgetown to eclipse Maryland in the DMV. Right? Yeah, they took that shit over.
We whipped their ass.
So my feelings were, I still got 80 on the dome because, if you go to a spot like Georgetown with that history and you don't have, if you're in the DMV and you don't have an idea of what you're about to embark upon, then shame on you. And Felix dropped the knowledge real eloquently on what they had in that first recruiting class. So for me, 80 was still on my brain, just it's in your bloodstream. 82, I didn't play it much in 82. And in my mind, on a personal tip, I think 82 is the best team. And Felix, you and I can go back and forth. I think 82 is just the best team. It's a dope ass team. And Johnny, we can get busy too with the 79, 80.
80.
But that 82 for me, I just so much senior leadership, and then you had the influx of the freshmen, right? And then Kurt and David are sophomores, and Fred and I, we started out with 5 in our recruiting class, and only 2 made it. And just a lot of things we touched upon about what it takes to make it through. And it's like you need your teammates, you need each other. And again, it's not a whole lot of verbiage. It's sometimes you just watching how other cat move, and that helps you get through. There's no way Big John did not tell us the significance of each and every team that he coached at that moment after winning. After we won. So even if you thought it was about you, he pulled you back in to what we were all about and told some stories. And yeah, you're in your own euphoria, but he told stories about 72, 73, nigga flop must go. He impressed that upon you in only the way that he could, which was basically, motherfuckers, this ain't all about you. We were putting chips in place since I've been here. There were cats putting blood, so he made it collective. He made it about all of us. I can't dress it up any way other than I know how I would have felt. I know how I would have felt if we won in 85. I know how I would have felt if we would have in 96 got through Massachusetts. I know how I would have felt in 2007. I know how I felt when we beat North Carolina to get to the Final Four. I mean, I lost my mind, right? Reparations that were due were paid. And I still don't like North Carolina. But it's just one, and it still bothers me that Brand Jordan is our fucking, we can just be with Nike. We ain't got to be with Brand Jordan. I still struggle with that. I struggle with that. So I say all that to say, because that's how we're built. That's how we're built. So he made it clear that no one team is responsible for where we were at that time, right? And if anything, if I can instill anything upon the young cats today, or the coaching staff, or Patrick, or whomever, is don't let them forget. And there's more content available than ever. Don't let them forget. I care more what Johnny Irwin says about Georgetown basketball than I do Shaquille O'Neal or Charles Barkley or somebody that didn't play there. It means more. So that's why on a real low level, this was imperative for me. I thank everyone that showed up. I thank those that came through and left. Because again, you all left your own indelible mark on that bitch. And
Thank you, roommate. Thank you, roommate.
and when they win again, I'm going to be talking shit like I played when they win again. So if anybody has anything else to say, cool in the gang. If not, Felix, please take us home so I can end this. We're pushing up on 3 hours, fellas. I know everybody got something else to do. And I know Big John is going, don't you motherfuckers got something else to do? So Felix, if you could take us home, baby, I appreciate it.
All I have to say is, Hoya locker room with Gene Smith.
Yeah, man.
The master communicator.
I don't know about all that, but thank you, fellas. Thank you, fellas.
Peace and love.
Love you guys.
All right. And much
Good to
love.
see y'all, man. Good to see everybody.
Markham, I'm going to send you my info.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you so
Now
much.
y'all got to
Thank
let Johnny Irwin do the dance first.
No,
What
sir.
day? What
I'll
day?
see you later, G.
What days? What days?
No.
What
That's
days,
all.
man?
No.
Hey, Mark Tillman. Mark
Yes,
Tillman,
sir.
I see you
Yes,
in
sir.
the car. I know you're busy. Do you have anything to say before we break out? You always do.
No, I don't today, man. I have nothing to say today, man. I'm just happy to go pick up my baby girl.
All right, man. Thank you for posting. I know you were busy today. I appreciate you, fam.
All
right.
right. Much love, guys.
Much
Love
love,
you,
brother.
everybody. Great to see you.
Hoya locker room is a wrap.
All right, baby.
Hoya's for life.
Hey.
Order for life. We out.
Thank you.
Take care.